for your time here today. I have to say, General Kelly, I agree with your statement that there doesn't seem to be all that many similarities between Latin American culture and Persian culture. I would also like to point out that Iran has been implicated in the murders of many Jews in South Africa and Argentina, the investigator of which mysteriously turned up dead a few weeks ago. And Admiral Gortney, I'd just like to highlight in your testimony on page 6 that you say Iran recently launched another satellite into orbit, and quote, despite international condemnation and sanctions, Iran has failed to cooperate fully with the International Atomic Energy Agency to resolve all outstanding concerns regarding its nuclear program, particularly those concerning its possible military dimensions, end quote. So before we even reach any further deal with Iran, Iran is already not living up to its obligations under multiple UN Security Council resolutions. But now I'd like to turn to Russia. General Kelly, on page 8 of your written testimony, you say, quote, under President Putin, we have seen a clear return to Cold War tactics, end quote. Could you please elaborate on what you mean specifically in your AOR?
Well, yes, Senator. For a number of years, we saw almost no real activity of any kind from the Russians. And just in the last couple of years, there's been some long-range bomber missions. They deployed a small task force of warships to the Caribbean, made various stops in countries like Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. They're, you know, from my perspective, really a nuisance, but they seem to be ratcheting up their kind of in-your-face, we can go anywhere we want, and we have friends around the globe. We know that they're in discussions, not to open bases, but to have agreements to where they can either bring ships to refuel and or aircraft to land and refuel. So, but as I say, they're more of a nuisance, but they're really up to I think just kind of making their point that they can go anywhere they want and challenge us in various ways. There's also a pretty steady stream of electronic warfare collection vessels that ply the waters of the Caribbean and our Atlantic coast, and periodically, we'll stop and get fuel, as I say, or pull liberty in some of the countries that they're friendliest with.
Admiral Gortney, would you share your perspective on growing Russian influence and activity in your AOR?
Absolutely, sir. Qualitatively, the Russians have developed a better military than the quantitative military of the Soviet Union, and they've also developed a new doctrine, and we're seeing that military and that doctrine playing out in the Ukraine. In the homelands, we're seeing them use that better military with long-range aviation and the deployment of their submarines and of the collection vessels that John was talking about. So what bothers me is the intent. What is their intent? They're clearly messaging us that's we do that as well, but what is the intent as they employ that doctrine through the spectrum of conflict? That's what concerns me.
And now this is a question for both of you. If the United States proceeds with the sequestration cuts to our defense budget, would you expect to see Russian influence and activity in the Western Hemisphere continue to grow or decrease?
I think any opponent will seize an opportunity when they see it, and I think that that's exactly what would happen.
I agree, sir. And the sequestration thing, again, it is what our partners around the world are looking at is this kind of almost withdrawal of our leadership role, depending on what part of the world and who you're talking to, but to take away the ability to partner with nations, to do deployments, would really, I think, send a shockwave through many of the countries that we're most aligned with and allied with. I know in my part of the world, they're already very, very concerned at the limited amount of engagement that already takes place.
So let me get this straight. 25 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union, 50 years after the Cuban Missile Crisis, 200 years after the Monroe Doctrine, your opinion is that if this Congress proceeds with the sequestration cuts to our defense, we will see continued and growing Russian adventurism in the Western Hemisphere. Admiral Gortney, yes or no?
I would agree with that.
General Kelly?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.